Good morning, everybody. My name is Jonathan Willey. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at ETH Zurich, volunteering with the International Cryosphere Climate Initiative. On this very last day of COP, or at least for the presentations and for the official business, it is my pleasure to introduce our last speaker of the ICCI side event sessions. Today we have Solar Cooking, a pathway to emissions prevention and climate crisis mitigation. We're joined by Solar Cookers International and represented by Caitlin Hughes. Caitlin, would you like to tell us more?
Thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much to the Cryosphere Pavilion. We really appreciate this ongoing partnership that we've had and this opportunity to share more information with everybody here in Dubai, COP28, as well as all of those joining us from afar. So we do welcome questions. So if anybody joining us online has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll address them as time allows at the end. So we have an exciting slate of speakers literally joining us from all around the world, from Bolivia, from India. We also have Mike Perparian, a long-standing Solar Cookers International board member, who is actually the original inspiration for Solar Cookers International coming here to COP to advocate for solar cooking as an effective climate solution. We'll also be hearing from Keith Wingard, the Strategic Partnerships Manager with Solar Cookers International, as well as Dr. Alan Bigelow, the Program and Science Director with Solar Cookers International, sharing some of his personal experiences and insights that inspired solar cooking and how that's been applied in Solar Cookers International's work. We'll get to hear from Samir Sharma from India, showing some really inspiring case studies, which I think will get all of us really excited about solar cooking, how we can be sharing it with our communities, and also our global advisor, Rocio Maldonado, who is bringing some incredible insights from Bolivia. So just a little background information. What is a solar cooker? So we specialize and our expertise is in solar thermal cooking. There's actually hundreds of different types, but they all use the same basic concepts of having something reflective to direct the sunlight, to a dark colored pot on the outside that absorbs the heat, and something that traps that heat. So here's a few examples, including this one right here. So this is a cook kit. It's actually designed by Solar Cookers International by request of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, because they wanted something that could be made easily and affordably anywhere around the world. So Solar Cookers International responded to that request, and these plans are now open source available on our website, solarcookers.org. So we encourage you to make a solar cooker with what you have available. You can use cardboard, recycled materials, you can use anything reflective, for example, the inside of potato chip bags. So really effective, really cost effective. And then we actually use this to solar cook here at COP. We made potatoes, peppers, onions, smelled really good. Definitely would want to share it with you if I had the chance. There's also box ovens and parabolics. So these can also be made locally as well, which we encourage. There's Fresnel lens solar cookers, Fresnel mirrors, and evacuated tubes. We've seen some really inspiring examples in terms of bakeries using some of these different types as well. Evacuated tubes are also really effective in higher latitude climates. So way up high, we've seen some of those work really well. There's also institutional solar cooking. There's some really great examples in Nepal and India. And for example, institutional scale solar cooking can cook for thousands of people at one time. So who is Solar Cookers International? We are the nonprofit that works to bring together our hundreds of collaborators in over 135 countries. And we work to promote solar cooking for the environmental, health, economic, and gender benefits. That's why I love solar cooking, because it addresses all of these things positively. In fact, it positively impacts all 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So it's a really fantastic solution. And we've been working since 1987. So very proud of that experience and progress. We are working to address the challenge that affects about 1 in 3 people worldwide, or about 2.3 billion, with a B, people who cook over open fires. And really, this impacts all of us because we're all impacted by the climate. We all want to live on a healthy place, have that available for future generations. So we're doing what we can to make people's lives better and protect our planet. Solar Cookers International works to address this global challenge in 3 main ways: through advocacy, research, and building capacity. And you'll get to hear more in depth about how we do this from our speakers. So I'd like to introduce Mike Perparian, our Solar Cookers International board member, to talk more about our advocacy work here at COP.
Thank you, Caitlin, for that great introduction to solar cooking. So here at COP, they talk a lot about sectors and reducing emissions from various sectors: transportation, maritime, airplanes, and so forth. Well, if you considered cooking a sector, it would be a significant uh, climate change contributor. If you look at it as a sector, as much as 2.3% of global CO2 comes from cooking. Um, More than half of the black carbon comes from household fuel use, and about half of that, about 25%, comes from cooking on open fires. Caitlin mentioned that 2.3 billion people still rely on open fire cooking. But we have solutions at Solar Cookers International, and we're excited to share those today. As we know, the foundation of a lot of the actions on climate change uh, comes from the NDCs, the nationally determined contribution reports from each of the countries. So at Solar Cookers International, since 2016, we have analyzed every single NDC and update to the NDCs to see which ones acknowledge the need for cleaner cooking to reduce emissions and provide better lives for those who utilize open fire cooking. The trend has been very positive as more and more countries recognize cooking and see the need to address the cooking sector. Of the 196 NDCs we reviewed most recently, 38.2%, um, or 75, acknowledge cooking as an area of attention. 49 countries, more significantly, discuss cooking, clean cooking, fuels, or technology. 38 countries express concern for the human impacts of cooking, and 11 countries identify impacts on women within their NDCs. You can see on the slide a link to our report on NDCs. One country deserves special note, the Central African Republic, which has a goal of 10% of its population using solar cook stoves by 2030. So in terms of going forward with the NDCs are regularly updated, and we see kind of a pathway for countries in dealing with solar cooking and clean cooking in their NDCs. Some of them might have no mention of cooking right now. Perhaps the next time they'll acknowledge cooking, or maybe they'll jump ahead to some of the other things that we suggest, which more aggressively talk about the clean cooking sector and the changes that can be made. We have some very simple language to suggest as a foundation for inclusion of clean cooking in the NDCs, and you can see it there. The transition from biomass and fossil fuels for cooking to renewable energy sources, which include solar thermal cooking solutions. Simple language, but big impact. So this slide summarizes some of the information I just said, and also includes a pretty complete list of the countries that have clean cooking mentioned in their NDCs. And next we have Keith.
Thanks, Mike. As Mike mentioned, my name is Keith Wingard. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager with Solar Cookers International. And I just wanted to take a few moments to elaborate a little bit more on some of that advocacy work that Mike was just highlighting, and talk a little bit about what that looks like in practice, and then also mention a little bit about some of the capacity building work we do as well at Solar Cookers International. Caitlin had mentioned earlier in the opening remarks that solar cooking impacts all 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The impact that clean cooking can have stretches to a number of issues, some of them more directly and some of them a little bit less directly. But the key ones that we often talk about are SDG 5, which references gender equality. Cooking disproportionately impacts women and girls in that women and girls are primarily responsible for collecting wood, fuel sources, and are also primarily responsible for the cooking activity as well, which means those smoke fumes that are often a result of cooking with biomass are negatively impacting the health and well-being of women and girls. So gender components are one issue that we often talk about when we're looking at clean cooking. We also talk about SDG 7, which references clean energy, access to clean and reliable energy. This focuses on access to electricity, which has been expanding, and the world has made some progress on access to grid electricity and off-grid electricity as well. However, access to clean cooking remains an issue, particularly in regions of the world where there is that reliance on wood and charcoal and other biomass fuels for cooking. In particular, this is a particularly challenging issue in Africa, where out of a population of just over 1,970,000,000 people are still cooking over open fires using polluting fuels and technologies for their primary means of cooking food. The issue then that links to the cryosphere is that especially in regions where there is biomass cooking near places that have a cryosphere, the black carbon that Mike mentioned earlier rises into the atmosphere, gets carried by the winds, and then can at times settle onto cryosphere landscape, which accelerates the melting process of snow and ice because there are small, fine black particles, soot particles. So those black particles absorb light and accelerate that melting process. So that's the connection here. The more solar cooking that we can encourage people around the world to do, the greater impact we can have on things like preserving the cryosphere. So that's the energy component that we often talk about. And then clearly, as we've mentioned, this is a climate issue at its heart. So SDG goal number 13, climate action, is also one that we talk about as well when we're talking about the clean cooking impacts and the sustainable development goals. I will also add a little bit more when we're at events like COP28 here in Dubai. One of the goals for Solar Cookers International is to make the case to government representatives in particular to include that language that stresses the importance of addressing clean cooking in the nationally determined contribution documents that countries are coming up with. We've had some opportunities to meet with country representatives from around the world. As I mentioned, this is a particularly acute problem in Africa, which means some of the government representatives we've been meeting with from countries in Africa are particularly motivated and interested in finding a way to expand solar cooking. Central African Republic was mentioned, and we've had some promising conversations around how we can take what is a proven technology in some regions of the world, solar thermal cooking, and make it applicable and reliably accessible and affordable to communities in the Central African Republic, which is a country where there are still around 98% of the population that relies on biomass for cooking. And this is not a particularly uncommon statistic. Many countries in Africa have a similar significant reliance on biomass. So as we saw earlier, the Central African Republic has explicitly mentioned this, which is a great step. This allows us to open up opportunities to demonstrate that this is a priority by that national country government, and also allows for opportunities to access additional climate funding, and connects also to some of the priorities around a just transition, and that priorities for energy transition are locally led by governments and by communities that are indicating clean cooking is a priority, and that it can be impactful for the health, well-being, environment, and livelihoods of those that are cooking with biomass at this point in time. So I'll jump ahead a little bit to talk about some of the building capacity work that Solar Cookers International does. So we've mentioned advocacy. One of the other things we do is we identify local partners that we can work with. We're a relatively small nonprofit organization based in the United States, but we do have connections with manufacturers around the world. We have connections with civil society organizations, and we are always looking for opportunities to establish solar cooking capacity, manufacturing capacity, demonstration of what kind of impact solar cooking can have on particular countries and regions. One way we do this is we maintain what's called the Solar Cooking Wiki. This is the world's largest online database, referencing pages with information about solar cooking projects that are active or historical. There are about 1,800 pages that are automatically translated to 35 plus languages. This is a wealth of solar cooking information that also includes things like open source design plans. So if there is, for example, someone somewhere around the world that has access to the internet, they can look up an open source design plan and make their own cook-it version with the materials that are available locally, and begin solar cooking at their own home and in their own community right away. There are also examples of projects design. There are examples of specific country pages that you can look at. So if, for example, if you are from Kenya and you wanted to know more about what kind of solar cooking projects or opportunities there might be, go to the Solar Cooking Wiki and type in your country, Kenya, for example, and you can find out more information about the great work that's being done already. And I'll also mention one of the things we also do at Solar Cookers International is we have an emphasis on data collection and analysis so that we can tell the story of the impact that solar cooking is having on communities that are taking advantage of this renewable resource to cook a portion of their meals. One resource that we use is what's referred to as the Quick Needs Assessment, where we have a survey that runs through a list of questions that helps us determine the willingness of communities to consider transitioning to solar cooking devices for cooking a portion of their meals. This helps us work on projects from a place that allows us to be informed about cultural preferences, local opportunities that might exist, and we work directly with those local implementing partners to make sure that the information that we get is reliable and establishes us for the best opportunity to have successful and meaningful programs. I'll also add that there's an adoption and impact survey as well. If we are working in a particular location, for example, at the Kakuma refugee camp in northern Kenya, we have a survey that allows us to determine what kind of adoption rates are being realized, and that we can also look at things like the amount of fuel savings, both in terms of the wood and charcoal that is reduced from the use of solar cooking devices, and the economic savings as well. Every time you cook with solar thermal energy, that means that's a little bit less wood or charcoal that you potentially have to purchase or even barter for to contribute to your cooking fuel budget. So being able to quantify the use of solar cooking devices and the impact that's having on communities allows us to tell the story of solar cooking in a way that increases the understanding of solar cooking's impact and gives us an opportunity to tell the story of where solar cooking is happening and what people are saying about it. And for example, here's a map on our website that shows the breadth or the reach of solar cooking. These are not projects that we've directly been responsible for. This is what's referred to as like a crowdsourced map. So anywhere around the world that solar cooking is happening, we ask you to let us know so we can put it up on our map and let everyone out there know at COP28 and around the world, solar cooking is happening. It's successful. It's creating delicious meals for people in all these different places that have that direct access to sunlight and solar thermal energy for cooking purposes. Our estimate is about 4 million solar cooker devices around the world that have directly impacted 14 million people, an estimate of 7.7 billion meals, and one because of the solar cooked meal that we had the other day at the Blue Zone here in COP28, and has led to the reduction in CO2 emissions by an estimated 30 million tons over the lifetime of those solar cooking devices. So this just gives you an idea of the opportunity that exists if solar cooking were to be adopted or to be utilized at a wider scale, which is what we at Solar Cookers International are working hard to help establish the opportunities for that to happen. And then I think finally, there's another piece of work that Solar Cookers International would like to highlight. It's something we call the Solar Cooking Impact Summaries. So we've collected information for every country around the world that looks at the percentage of the population that are relying on polluting fuels and technologies. And we've done some simple calculations to determine the health impacts and the cost of those health impacts, and then the emission impacts as well, so those environmental impacts. And we provide an estimated fuel savings if everyone that is currently cooking with wood or charcoal were to transition to solar cooking for an estimated 25% of meals. For this example right here in Nepal, the estimate is substantial, $2.6 billion if everyone that is currently cooking with wood were to start using solar cooking as a supplement to their other cooking methods. So I'll leave it there for now. Thank you for listening. Thank you again to the Cryosphere Pavilion for hosting us. And I will pass it along to our next speaker, Mr. Samir Sharma, the CEO and co-founder of Swaha, who will be joining us remotely. So we'll just check in with our technical support to make sure that Samir can come up on the screen and tell you a little bit more about his work that he has done using solar thermal technologies.
Thank you so much, Keith. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So a very good afternoon to everyone over here. And I'm so much thankful to SEI to give me this opportunity to speak and share my experiences of the case study of high altitude solar cooking during the biggest sustainable and zero landfill event of India. Recently, we have done it. So this is a very eye-opening experience for us as well as for the government of India during this event. And the best part of this case study is that the solar cooking was the hero of the entire event. And because of this, our Jammu Kashmir region of India, that is the high altitude state of India, who is hosting these very special Hindu pilgrimage events, mega events every year. So now they have got a great model to fight with the climate change, as well as for the problem of the glaciers, not forming of the glaciers over there, as well as providing the clean fuel to the communities over there. So I'll be very happy to share my experiences. So this event is known as Sri Amarnath Yatra. Amarnath is basically a Mount Amarnath region of the Himalayas, situated in India, where you can see on the very first image, a holy cave you can see. It's of Lord Shiva idol is there, and it's naturally snow-formed Lord Shiva's idol, and it's very famous and a very valuable pilgrimage for the Hindus. So when I talk about the pilgrimage and its importance, so you can see the map. There are two routes for this particular yatra from Jammu and Kashmir. One is of 45 kilometers and another is 16-kilometer route to reach the holy cave. And every year, more than 500,000 people visit to this cave in a period of 1 month. And as it is situated into the Himalayan region of Jammu and Kashmir in India, you can see that there are several weather-related and geographical challenges we have to face, as it is the toughest terrain of Himalayas situated under Indian region. The weather is quite cold, that is minus 20 degrees centigrade to 10 degrees centigrade. Non-motorable roads, no electricity, no communication in the 80% area of the entire pilgrimage event. Lack of oxygen is there, and a lot of physical challenges one has to face during this pilgrimage. And heavy rains, landslides, and cloudbursts are very common thing over there. And to think an idea of putting the solar cooking in such area was a big challenge, a big daring. And the only thing which basically helped us or inspired us, that was the sun exposure. Solar exposure is very good in the area of Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh. So when we decided, we went with a concept to the government by putting up a mega kitchen over there that is known as sustainable mega kitchen. In Hindi, they call it langar. Langar is a free kitchen for the pilgrims, where they come and eat 3 times in a day, a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And in the entire overall yatra event, they are having more than 450 such kind of mega kitchens to feed these 500,000 pilgrims, because one lot of the pilgrims are basically on the route for at least 4 days. So to feed them during both the routes and entire event, these langars are the lifeline for all the pilgrims and the entire event of pilgrimage. And this time we have supported it and given a concept that we would going to have a langar, a kitchen based on 3 renewable energy sources: solar cooker, biomass, and biogas. But when I talk about solar cooker, it was one of the most challenging step we have taken to take it to the Jammu Kashmir region and establish it in Kashmir area of Himalayas. The best part, when we did it, it saved around daily 1 cylinder of LPG gas. Here you can see that how did we build it. Uh, we engaged around 380 Kashmiri youths for the entire zero landfill and sustainable event. And out of them, the 12 people were specifically used for the solar kitchen. And they, by their own hands, manually, without the help of any crane or hydra, because there is no electricity, non-motorable roads. So we have to build it completely manually. And these youths, they have done a great job by making this solar cooker and installing it and fabricating it on the field. So we call it a factory on the field kind of a concept we have taken in this yatra. And we cooked around daily food for 2,400 plus people daily for 3 times. And the best part, it was the very first experiment of such kind of thing, which happened in Jammu and Kashmir. The innovative efforts which we took during this entire yatra, when we established this solar kitchen, the first part, that every pilgrim who were supposed to visit this base camp of Baltal in Jammu Kashmir area was very much attracted towards the solar dish. They used to come and spend their few minutes, know about the entire technology, how they can have it at their own place. So this was our biggest IEC model of information, education, and communication to the public, which visited the entire yatra, and secondly for the locals as well. And then daily cooking, hot water supply, as well as the skill development to the locals is done on a very large scale. We used to cook daily rice over there, because rice is the main food during the yatra as well as for the locals. Then hot water supply up to the 8 hours since morning, because early morning we used to get the sun and the exposure is quite good. And we got very successful operations during this entire yatra of our Scheffler solar dishes. And out of 62 days of the entire yatra, we could easily use this solar cooker around 40 days if we just skip some rainy days and some cloudy days. As I told you, that we have put Scheffler dishes as well as the Prince model of the domestic cooking. So it was a great matter of attraction for the students as well as for the locals. They used to come and they had a great number of inquiries over there that how they can install it in Kashmir. So around 500K people of pilgrimage event, and around 100K people of local Jammu and Kashmir, they got educated about solar cooking here in this mega event. And then we had a lot of dinner and lunch parties and breakfast parties for the nearby and local schools, colleges, universities, to the security staff, to specifically groups of pilgrims, as well as to the service providers of the entire yatra. So you can see that people were so much amazed that how cooking apparatus can work without any electricity or any physical fuel. And they were quite excited. And we have trained around 100 plus people on solar cooking during the 62 days of Amarnath Yatra. And the food was amazingly delicious, and it has got a different taste, and they liked it very much. When I come to the another part of this implementation of solar cooking experience in this yatra, we have also developed an app and MIS data portal, so that basically we can record the entire data. This was the first time when we were recording and putting the data into a system, so that we can understand that carbon emissions and carbon offset data, how this data can be used later on, how the report can be prepared and put it to the government, so that they can take this solar cooking into their policies and take it as a very serious matter, and then it can be implemented in the next few days. So the best part was we got a policy impact very recently. In the last month, I got a very good news when we implemented this event as a responsible pilgrimage theme. And in this, we introduced this sustainable langar, sustainable mega kitchen based on the solar cooking biogas and biofuel. The solar cooker was the hero, and the government has decided, they invited us, and they have taken the entire detail that what all can be done in Jammu and Kashmir and various mega events happening in this area. They have decided that all the 400 plus kitchens during this yatra and from the very next year, they are going to be a green kitchen only as a mandate. So solar cooker is going to be a big step in Jammu and Kashmir as well as for India, because of this great demonstration of technology to the ground during this event, and of a successful operation during the entire yatra and feeding 2,400 plus people daily. So we are very happy to present that if we put the models to the public and on ground, and when we can successfully demonstrate the model, then it really becomes a success story. And we are very happy that we have reduced around 500 kg of CO2 emissions in this particular event. So this was the entire case study, and the policy and the results are with us, and we have been asked, and very in a dignified way, they have invited us that how the whole state can be taken into the solar journey of the cooking at the domestic level, at the commercial kitchen level, as well as for the community solar kitchens. So I'm very happy that I was able to do this event, as well as uh, able to put this entire case study in front of all of you. Thank you so much to the Solar Cooking International to giving this opportunity to me. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Thank you so much. There is a video. This video is basically a live video you can see. It's not only the environmental impact, but a great social impact to the local Kashmiri youths. Now they are working for the solar concentrators, solar kitchens, and solar cookers. And we have successfully opened 6 startups for the clean energy fuel over there in Jammu and Kashmir. And we have identified number of commercial opportunities as well for them. You can see that how did it performed there very well. The toughest job was the installation and the transportation to the hilly area. Established it there without electricity, wailed it, and fabricate it on ground. And now the entire team of solar cooker engineers and solar cooking experts are there in Jammu and Kashmir with us now. Yeah, I think the video is over.
All right. Thank you so much, Samir. We really appreciate you sharing that inspiring example. And next we'll hear from Rocio Maldonado, one of our amazing global advisors. And a big thank you to Rocio for waking up very early this morning to join us. We really appreciate you sharing your voice and your time and your expertise. So thank you, Rocio.
Thank you, Caitlin, and thank you everybody for this opportunity, so I can share my experience, this project experience, not only mine. So I will present the experience of solar cooking project for more than 20 years in Bolivia and Peru. So as the last speaker presented, this project is going on, or also in a very high altitude level places in Bolivia and Peru. So the fuel supply in these places is a a problem in isolated areas because the difficult conditions for biomass generation. So solar cooking is very appropriate technology for this kind of context. At the same time, as these areas are very high level altitude, but also very close to Atacama Desert, they have one of the highest direct solar radiation in the world. So it's a very, very good context for solar cooking. So the technology we use is the ULOC solar cooker box model, and some of the technical parameters, of course, have been tested and adapted to local conditions. No, this is a very simple tool to take advantage of solar energy, and it's a safe and free option to access solar energy for solar cooking in these areas. Of course, this has the all positive impact that has been presented already. The strategies and approaches that we use for this project and the implementation of this project is a very, very local approach, so very close to local communities. We have a very strong component of capacity building, so we teach people on how they can build and repair their own solar cooker. It's a small scale project and a very important focus on the use of the solar cooker, and it is locally made also. As I said, there's a technology transfer, so people learn how to build and how to repair their own solar cooker. We pay a lot of attention on the population needs because it is very important to understand what is going on with the population, so we can propose the technology so this can be more useful for them. The use of solar cooking means that people has to change their habits, so it's very important to follow this process for people, so people can really change their cooking habits, and we can help with the problems they can have during this process. It's a very important the commitment of the competent staff. It's very important that people who works for this is very committed and convinced that this is a real solution, and they also use the solar cooker every day in their lives. After then we have very good quality materials and the highest performance of the solar cooker that we can. Here I present different meals that we can cook in the solar cooker. So we can do soups, stews, fried things. Here is very common to boil the dry fruits, so we can have a juice or drinks from fruits. Also, we can do all kind of bread, cakes, cookies, jams, all kind of baked meats, and we can do deshydrated fruits and vegetables as well. This project has been registered under the gold standard for getting carbon credits. So here I present a little bit about this. The methodology that we have been used. This project has been registered from 2008 until 2018. So 10 years of this process of carbon credits. So the project has been registered about in 2008, and it has been getting carbon credits for 10 years, both one in Bolivia and one in Peru. Both of them were the microscale project because of the amount of emission reduction that we get from this in each one of these projects. So the process to getting the carbon credits means many things, but some of them are the qualitative studies, the kitchen survey that allows us to understand what kind of fuel is used by the community or the population before they adopt the solar cooker, the frequency that the people will use the solar cooking, and some other parameters. Also, it is important to measure and do the quantitative studies as the kitchen test, which means that we have to measure how much fuel is used without the solar cooker and with the solar cooker, so we can know how much fuel is being saved by using the solar cooker. Here I present some of the more important results of this process. So since 2000, we have about 9,000 solar cookers installed in the rural communities in Bolivia, and about 8,400 solar cookers in Peru since 2001. And in average, we have about 50% of reduction in fuel consumption and about 2 tons of emission reductions per year. Also, we have other impacts like empowerment of women because of time savings. Here, the next slide, I present some of the other benefits which we get with solar cooking, like so solar cooking doesn't need the user intervention during the cooking time. We don't have to check if it's burning or not. So it's just very, this allows to save time. And this is very important. It has a very important impact in the empowerment of women, because as women doesn't have to spend all the morning cooking, they can participate in the community meetings, so they have opportunity to participate in the decisions of the community. So it has a very important impact in the women empowerment. Of course, it doesn't, once the community have the solar cooking, it has a zero running cost. The food keeps warm for a long time, so you don't have to come back to warm up. Very little maintenance. Of course, the reduction of risk of having respiratory disease related to smoke, and of all the risk reduction of all the risk related with the contact with fire, especially for children, and time saving also because of the reduction of fuel usage, and the time saved by the time that has been spent on collecting fuel. This is all what I wanted to share. I'm very happy to be part of this event, and of course I am ready to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Rocio. We really appreciate you sharing your expertise. We do have one more speaker, Dr. Alan Bigelow, the Program and Science Director with Solar Cookers International, who's going to share a little bit about his experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Caitlin. And thanks to the previous speakers and their wonderful work. It's because of you that we can do all of this together and really make progress on the global solar cooking movement. And we certainly invite others to join. So, my name is Alan Bigelow, and I am the Program and Science Director at Solar Cookers International. And I wanted to just give a quick message about how I connected with Solar Cookers International, and it was through an extraordinary opportunity to go on a solar trek at high altitude in Nepal about 10 years ago. And this was a first. There were 24 trekkers for 9 days at high altitude, and the meals were prepared with portable solar cookers. And after that was over, I promised the tour leader Martin Olthoff of the Vajra Foundation that I would do everything I could to promote what had just happened and share this story with the world. So in this trek, I'm just showing some of the cookers that were used here. These were the portable solar cookers. These can be taken down and carried from place to place along the route. And these are parabolic reflectors that could do the job. The trek happened in November at a time when the skies are very clear, typically in Nepal. So we were fortunate to have those conditions to work well with what we were doing. And it was a big success. So along the way, we also employed the heat retained baskets. So this is a form of heat storage. So when people ask about how do you capture and contain the heat to be used later, this was extremely effective, where the meals were cooked during the daytime, but in the evening, when it was actually very cold outside, we were having warm meals, hot meals, for dinner inside the kitchen tent. In the along the route, this is the map that we followed, and it went up to a sacred lake called Barib Kunda. So this during 9 days happened, and we had breakfast, lunch, and dinners. This is a sample of the foods that we had at one particular lunch, and the foods were a mixture of Western and Nepali foods. So that was a wonderful opportunity to start connecting with the local culture, the local food culture. We also were able to visit a nunnery. So these are Tibetan nuns that had come into Nepal. And so we were able to have some interactions with them. This picture is the destination, the lake, the holy lake to several different religious groups. And this was at about 14,000 feet of altitude, about 4,000 meters. So for those who know the Colorado Rocky Mountains, this is about that height of the peaks of those mountains. So we did have to start being concerned about some altitude effects. Anyhow, the final stop was at Fort Duguna, and that was the end of this particular trek. Just to note, the relevance here is that, as you heard from Mike Paparian earlier, about 25% of black carbon is emitted through cooking with polluting fuels. And think about this also in terms of where ice pack is and where the water in its frozen state is stored, and also in the context of where people are who are cooking with polluting fuels. So this particular area along the Himalayas has a lot of people cooking with polluting fuels very close to this precious storage of water. So if we can reduce the melting by reducing the emission of reduce the melting of the ice pack by reducing the emission of black carbon, the better that we will all be. Now, I'd like to talk about our research program at Solar Cookers International. We do have 3 buckets of work: research, capacity building, and advocacy. And in our research program, we essentially focus on product testing. And so a little bit of story behind that. Previous to SCI getting into this work, there had been no internationally agreed upon standard for how to test a solar cooker. So that was an opportunity for SCI. And at that time, SCI was phasing out its manufacturing aspect, which gave us a good position to be in that we would not have a perceived conflict of interest as a testing organization. So we got involved with a new technical committee that had been formed at the ISO level, the International Organization for Standardizations, that had started working on methods for testing clean cook stoves and clean cooking solutions. So now we use those standards. These were published about 5 years ago. There's a field testing standard and a laboratory testing standard. And the methods that are used for testing solar cookers are the same for both of those standards. And at SCI, we've developed what we call a performance evaluation process that automates the standards that are included in that ISO document. So we harmonize with ISO standards, and this test essentially measures the temperature in water that's being heated in a solar cooker and looks at the rate of change of water, and using very simple, straightforward freshman level equations from physics and chemistry, we can deduce from that what we call the standard cooking power. So one value, which is a metric for the performance specification of a solar cooker. This is important in that it brings credibility to the entire sector. There's less confusion. Prior to having these standards, there were manufacturers making claims that their cooker was the best or the number one. This helps bring a measure to that is through one particular testing process. This is also important for investors such as large organizations that would want to purchase large quantities of solar cookers. They should know what they're buying into. So there needs to be a performance specification. Well, we now have that. I need to give credit to our colleague, Justin Tabachnik. He is formerly had been working at Intel as a electronics expert, and he now works part-time at Solar Cookers International, and he was the person who actually developed the Arduino-based electronics that takes the measures from various thermocouples, anemometer, and pyronometer, and then wrote the software routines to get a final result, the standard cooking power. At Solar Cookers International now, this program is fairly recent, just the past few years since the standards were created. We have developed testing rapport with several manufacturers and conducted testing for a number of reflective panel cookers, a number of evacuated tube cookers that are shown here. And then on this slide, we also have a number of box ovens that have been tested, including by one of our testing collaborators at the University of Nairobi. So they are now also represented in the results. Furthermore, when the manufacturers give written permission to SCI to post their results online, we do that. And so this is a screenshot of an interactive table on our website where you can click in the first column and get the actual report, so the PEP results report. And in the second column, you can get a link to more information about the manufacturer of that cooker. So if you're interested to follow up the manufacturers, please use this table to do that. We also, of course, include the result, the standard cooking power. And these are color coded because not all types of solar cookers work the same way. So there's parabolic cookers, evacuated tube cookers, reflective panel box ovens. And so just to designate who is who on here, we've added some color to the whole picture. Okay, also the manufacturers then get the permission to use this sticker. It's a logo for having their cooker tested. And we also share more information in those results reports. Please do read them. They do give much more information and insight about how the solar cookers perform. Okay, so at that, I'd like to conclude my section here and hand the microphone back over to Caitlin Hughes, our Executive Director at Solar Cookers International. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you, Alan, for combining the personal and the scientific to inspire us all and give us a path forward. So I'm sure many of you are wondering how to engage with Solar Cookers International, because we've got our work cut out for us. We've got clear reasoning why. So what can you do? There's a lot of different ways. You can sign up for more information so you can be aware of future events. We have a lot of virtual opportunities and events, so we encourage you to tune in and sign up so you can hear more from more of our experts around the world. As we've gone over, we have a ton of information and resources available online, so we encourage you to access that. A lot of what we're doing, as Keith described, is building capacity so that we can all be advocates for solar cooking. You can connect with our collaborators, so find who's solar cooking within your community, because it takes all of us working together. You can join the Solar Cookers International Association. Consult SCI, we do have consultancy services. We just went through an amazing and inspiring project with some collaborators in Yemen. We do encourage you to include solar cooking in your life, work, and your country's policies if it isn't already one of those. If it is one of those that we described, celebrate, thank your government leaders. and also encourage Solar Cookers International performance evaluation process testing of solar cookers so we can build that credibility for the sector. And of course, support SCI. We are here thanks to our amazing donors. We could not do it without you. So we invite you to become one of our supporters and be a part of the movement. So again, thank you so much to the Cryosphere Pavilion for hosting us. We really appreciate this opportunity and all that you are doing. And thank you for joining us.